Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to this yoga session. Hopefully you've got all the things you need, yoga mat, blocks, whatever gear best helps to support your practice. And if you don't know, experiment and incorporate it all and see what works. I'm also sitting on a couple blankets and that helps support me. All right, so we'll get started letting yourself settle in on your breath. Take your time. If you're feeling like sitting up, whether you're sitting up next to a wall to be supported or you've got something underneath you and you're sitting in the middle of your mat, it doesn't matter. Or if you're laying down, it doesn't matter. Let your eyes close if that is comfortable. If it's not comfortable to have your eyes closed, just a slight gaze, a few feet in front of you, not really focused on anything. And everything is turning inward. Everything is turning into the breath. You're becoming obsessed with your breath. It's the only thing you're paying attention to. You're breathing however is comfortable, whether it's through your nose or your mouth or a combination of your nose and mouth. And that awareness of your breath helps to keep you anchored in yourself and the present moment. And that is often where you find clarity. And so practice that settling in, making sure you're comfortable. If you're seated in a way that your feet or toes get tingly, make sure that you don't let them. Arrange yourself so they don't. And then, as much as you can, try to leave all the stuff that's going on in your life, all the things you're worried about, all the things you're looking forward to, and leave them outside the space where you're at. They're waiting for you. Your breath is coming in and out of your body. That is the rhythm, that in and out. That's the rhythm of everything. And it's coursing within you and connecting to that, being aware of that, keeping that awareness on your body, bringing it to your navel. That's where you first began. Started at your navel. And you can let your breath be really full. And as you inhale, fill up the lower third of your lungs and press your navel into the space in front of you, and then you feel the middle third of your lungs fill up and your ribs move up and apart. And then the breath goes into the upper third, your heart lifts up in your chest. And then you exhale, heart and chest move down, ribs move down and together, and then you gently pull that navel back and up into your body. And then the inhale happens again, and you fill up navel, ribs, chest. And then exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. And that 3-part yoga breath, if you're new to it, it takes a little getting used to. So be kind and gentle to yourself. And even if it's something that you're really used to, you're still being kind and gentle. That's another thing. You're paying attention to your breath and you're kind and compassionate and gentle with yourself. You're really becoming aware if you speak to yourself, not very nicely, and then rectify that. Practice speaking to yourself with kindness. At least practice speaking to yourself. If you can't quite muster kindness for yourself, at least try not to have hate and loathing for yourself. Try to come to some place neutral. That will then be another place that you can become aware. And still you're breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. And that deep, full breath, not only is it keeping you and your awareness on it, it's also doing magic within your body. It's oxygenating the blood so it courses through your body, and then as you move and into the lunges and the squats and the hinges, that blood that's oxygenated will flow into those nooks and crannies. And those spaces will be flush and they'll get nutrients, and so it'll be doing a body good. So you're not only helping your physical health, but also your mental health. And so if you're laying down, take time to come up to seated, taking your time. Seated, make sure your legs are comfortable. We're going to get that first lower girdle involved. You're pulling that back body down, lifting the front body, pressing the knees away, flexing the feet, even if your legs are really extended out. It's all about finding that support, that base. You are creating that from within, that rock solidness from your navel down is navel dimples down, no matter what position. And then navel dimples up. It's light. You're lifting that upper girdle, so now that second girdle gets involved. The heart lifts, the blades come down and together, and you are breathing full and deep. You might feel that gentle pressure, that stretch on the top of your shoulder, as long as it's not uncomfortable, right? Feel that collarbone slide apart. Keep pulling that back body down. Keep lifting that front body, and let yourself breathe full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. And so not only are you rock solid, but then you're also light. It's like you're lifting. You're the wings there beneath. You're the wind beneath your own wings. And you're letting that breath be full and deep. You're not only trying to press down and lift up, but also trying to stretch right, left, east, west. In fact, you've got this whole right circle of consent around you that's as wide and a diameter as basically where your arms can reach. That's what I like to call the circle of consent. Like, I try to stretch out into that, fill up that space. So not only are you, like I said, pressing yourself up, down, but right, left, even forward and back. Feel yourself, be aware of yourself three-dimensionally in space. Keep breathing full and deep. And then any engagement, you can let go after a while, keeping as much as feels good. We're going to pause. Hands are going to make their way to your heart. If that feels good, it can be prayer position. It could just be laying on your heart. You can also do navel and heart, or if it's just more comfortable to have out to the side, of course. And then take a time to bow and think to yourself any intention that you might be working on. It could be, you can be expanding on anything I've talked about, or something personal, or a combination of them. So take a couple breaths there for that seed of intention to be planted. And then on our next inhale, let those arms, wherever they're at, just reach above your head. Keep those shoulder girdle engaged. And only reach up and bring your hands together as much as feels good. And then exhale, pull down into your heart center. Try to stay with that engagement of those girdles, lifting the front body, pulling the back body down. Second time, exhale, pull down into your heart. Third time. And then exhale. And then pause. You've planted the seed of intention. And now we will move through this practice together. You can unwind. It'll be like the sprinkling of water and the sunshine, hopefully to get it to grow. I am going to unwind my legs. I'm going to go ahead and pull this blanket out just so I like comfort. I am not above pausing in my yoga to give myself comfort. I would love for you to do that too. Let those knees fall side to side. You're in charge of how close those legs are to each other, how close they are to you. Excuse me, I feel like a little frog in my throat. That's why I brought my water, so I could take a sip, and hopefully you've got something to hydrate. Try to not put any weight on your limbs. Your limbs are really just here. They're not doing any of the work. They're just along for the ride. It's all about the trunk. Eventually you're going to be done with that movement. You're going to feel complete, and you're going to come back into a comfortable seated position. Here's where you can grab your yoga blocks if you would like to utilize them for a little bit support and to help with the reach to get a little bit deeper. I feel it's a deeper stretch. I hope if you're trying it, you're loving it, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even have any idea. And if you haven't, try it out. This is where hopefully you're starting to figure out what works for you. You've got that nice solid base. You're pressing your knees away. Remember, your legs can be in that butterfly position. The block's just out a little bit in front. And then do that reach again, and we're going to come into that hinge. It doesn't matter. It's just this bent leg, hinge, whatever works for you. If you don't like the reach wide, you can always do the reach up. And there's also just the reach forward. But once again, it's your trunk that is moving, and then even though the arms are moving, they're just going along for the ride. Eventually, you're going to pause in that reach position. Take your time. This is where, if you do have blocks, maybe they're not too high. You're protecting your elbows no matter what you're doing. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. And then lift yourself and walk a little bit over to the right. So you get this nice long lateral stretch down the left side. You're pressing that left glute down, whatever you're doing with those legs. And this is, I always forget about this, but I'm going to add it because I know it feels amazing. So I've got both hands reaching forward onto blocks. Maybe yours is just the floor and they're next to each other, but I'm going to take that left hand because I'm reaching to the right, and I'm going to place that left hand on top of my right hand. Oh, and it just adds. If you don't like it, don't do it, but oh my gosh, try not to let that left glute pop up. Try to keep your shoulders out of your ears. If you do not like the hand on top of each other, take it off. Do not hurt your elbows. You're always being really careful with those delicate joints. And then here's where you're going to release. Take your time, come through center. If you need to readjust your legs at any time, please take time to do that. Oh my gosh, it feels amazing. I just love a good stretch. It's like, I think probably top 5 things, stretching. All right, into that side, the other side, because we have 2 sides, so we're going to do it twice. So now I'm reaching to the left. I'm pressing that right glute down. I've got those legs engaged. I'm pulling that whole back body down. That left arm is reaching forward, and then that right hand is just going to lift up and then just place right on top of that. Right hand's going to place right on top of that left hand. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. I can feel that I need to come back a little bit this way. I feel like I'm popping up a little bit on that right side, breathing full and deep. I'm keeping that elbow protected. I'm not hyperextending it. And then bring yourself back through that center position to lift yourself up into that neutral position. And then however your legs are, let yourself take a moment to drop side to side. Ooh, it was a big pop there. Love a good pop. Love a good crack. It did not hurt. Inhale and exhale. My cracks and pops never hurt. They always feel really good. If your cracks and pops hurt, then I say don't do it. But I think it's a wonderful release. So you'll hear me talk all the time about cracking, and I actually do funny things with my legs to get them to crack. My knees, and I guess that's really what's cracking in the hips. All right, I've got the blanket still. I'm coming down onto those hands and knees to press back into a child. Take your time. You're still holding yourself in your body the same way. In the trunk, you're walking those legs as wide apart as feels good, pulling that back body down, lifting that front body, and then pressing back with your whole self. Oh my gosh, I always get these, I didn't really work that leg out. I get these toe cramps. If you get toe cramps, make sure you're being careful with your feet. Oh, I have to pull up like that. Inhale and exhale, stay with your breath. They don't really hurt, but they're weird. They feel weird in the foot. Inhale and exhale. I try not to get too freaked out about them. Stay with your breath. All right, I know that it's just, I need to move a little bit. We're going to lift up into that table after you feel complete in your child. Stay connected to that place behind your navel. Bring those knees then right underneath your hips. Hands right underneath your shoulders. Don't hyperextend those elbows. And right away you're going to pull that girdle, that lower girdle. It's a little tiny pelvic tilt. That back body pulls down, that front body pulls up into that place of support. And then your upper body, the shoulder blades come together and then pull apart, all the while keeping those elbows protected. And then you're going to be in that stable table position. This is where the back body is pulling down, front body is lifting up, and then your cat and cow is in your middle thoracic spine. Inhale and exhale. So the movement is concentrated in that middle back that gets no love. I had you lock your hyperflexible upper back and your hyperflexible lower back. That's what that girdle engagement does. It helps to keep those hyperflexible places protected and supported. And then you are putting the movement in that middle back as much as you can. All the while pressing evenly down with your arms and your legs, trying to find that place of middle. Don't hyperextend those elbows. Always have a nice soft bend, and then eventually you're going to pause. If you need to come down and rest off your hands at any time, please do. Sometimes even if you're staying lifted off your hands, you can still feel it. Another little trick is to bring your palms up, like you're using your fingers on the floor and you're getting that ball of your hand activated, and then gently bring your palms down in order to feel there's like a little space there, and it feels like it's nice and protected. Make sure you're keeping that back body pulled down and that front body pulled up. We're going to keep our gaze down to the floor, and our head's extended from our neck, and we're going to pull the left ear and shoulder towards that left hip. And then you're coming through center, right shoulder, right ear towards right hip, and it's just side to side to get that side body stretch. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Do not hyperextend those elbows. And then make sure you're going to pause. Make sure you're in a place in your mat where you're about in the middle. Resting back in child whenever you need to. We're going to be in that stable table. Pull that back body down, lift that front body, and then let yourself walk forward. Keep that sensation as you come forward into that knee down plank. And if you're like, I want to curl my toes and pull into a full plank, of course, it's your option to do that. Do not hyperextend those elbows. If you do that and then think I'd rather not, then come back down to kneeling plank. Breathing full and deep. Keep pulling that back body down. Keep lifting that front body, shoulders out of your ears. Inhaling and exhaling. You can even play around with coming back up at any time. I know you're like, what? How long am I going to hold this? I know. Keep breathing. We're going to keep that engagement. If you're not on your knees, come back to your knees if that's what feels good to you. And then you're going to release all the way down to the belly. Your hands are going to be right underneath your shoulders, and let those legs be extended and pull them in to each other. So you're pulling into the midline and you're looking down at your mat, and hopefully you feel strong. I feel super strong in this pose. My hands on the floor, and I'm gently trying to press evenly into right underneath my shoulders. Keep those elbows from winging out. You really got to think about that. And then it's inhale, baby cobra. Look over one shoulder. Exhale, come back down. Inhale, lift up. Baby cobra, look over the other shoulder. It's not a big move, but I want you to do this little baby cobra kriya. You're barely pressing into your arms, to your hands into the ground. If even, this is all back body. Make sure that you're, if this is all trunk, make sure it's not just back body. Make sure that you are keeping those legs heavy and they are not lifting up off the ground. And then eventually you're going to be done. I want you to let the engagement go, let the arms relax, let yourself completely relax. Oh my gosh, doesn't that feel amazing? And then bend those knees and windshield wiper to do like a little massage. You can rest one cheek down if that's what feels good to you. I'm going to keep my head up so I can keep talking to you. But you are doing whatever feels good as you reset from that baby cobra kriya. And I love those look over your shoulders, because you need to do that in order. If you're in any sort of transporting, like even if you're walking, if you're riding your bike, if you are anywhere there where there's people behind you, right? You need to be able to look behind your shoulder, especially if you're driving, you need to make sure that you can look look past your shoulder. So, and it needs to be comfortable, and that's like one of the first moves that goes for the elder generation if you haven't been paying attention. And I have, so that's why I talk about it all the time. All right, lift yourself up into that table position, move through any cat and cow that you would like, and then let yourself come back into your child. So rest back completely, inhaling and exhaling. Make sure that you are drinking anything that you need in order to stay hydrated. You're staying with that breath. You're paying attention to right there behind your navel, right there in front of your tail. This is where if you want to pull up into a downward dog, remember you're in charge. If you're like, my energy level is just, I'm going to stay here in child. Or maybe you're just laying on your mat. That is totally fine. I mean, it's your practice. I want you to honor where you're at. Inhale and exhale. But then if you're feeling up to it, I want you to try all the things and see what works. So coming into that downward dog, only if it feels good to you. Remember to stay in that child or that table if you need to. We're coming onto the balls of the feet, not the toes, even though it does feel really good to stretch up onto the toes, and I want you to play around with that. But then when you settle, I want you to settle onto the balls. Your heels are heavy. They may or may not touch. Your kneecaps are pulled up into your thighs, and your knees are really, really bent. That helps to keep the weight off that upper body. Inhale and exhale. Try to find that awareness of pressing evenly through both of the upper limbs and the lower limbs, the right side and the left side. Try to find that place of right in the middle. Remember to rest down into table at any time or rest back into child at any time. This is also, if you have blocks, you might want to have them to help you, depending on how you want to walk if you want to walk to the front of your space in that downward dog, or if you want to come up from hands and knees. And it doesn't matter how many steps it is, and it doesn't matter if there's any sort of assistance. You're finding yourself in that forward fold. This is a hinge. Keep those knees bent. I have the karate chop right into that place so I can feel right where that hinge is supposed to be. And then let myself just dangle. Breathing full and deep. My toes are doing no work. It's all the weights in the ball and the heel, the back body. Inhale and exhale. You're going to eventually be done with any movement if you are moving. And then you're going to come into that forward fold position. I want you to really feel yourself engage, pulling that back body down, lifting that front body as we play around with halfway up. So from this forward fold position, you're going to inhale halfway into that flat back. Whether you reach the arms right behind you or you bring them right above your knees, keep those knees really, really bent. That really helps. Exhale, come into that forward fold. So I'll hold a pose, but we're never holding our breath. But I do cue on the move, so that helps, especially because inhales help with lift, exhales help with coming in. All right, inhale when you're ready, halfway, flat back. I want you to hang out there again. This is a power move, and the more you get used to it, keep breathing, the more you love it. Exhale, bring yourself forward into that forward fold. So the next time we come up, if you're ready for that great big reverse swan dive, ooh, yeah, that feels great. But if you're like, oh, no, thanks, then come up halfway, flat back, hands above your knees, press yourself up to awkward chair, and then coming to standing, and only then, if it would feel good to you, lifting up into that back mat. You're always in charge. If that's not on the agenda today, don't beat yourself up about it, even if you did it yesterday or last week. Inhale and exhale. Eventually, we're all going to land with our hands at our heart, or our navel, or one of each, or out to the side, breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel, and then coming into mountain. So this is where your legs are right underneath your body. The balls are engaged. You're lifting your digits all the way down to the ball as much as you can, and then spreading those digits as wide as you can for then that gentle reach forward. Your toes never do any work. In fact, I want you to give your toes, I want you to fire your toes. I want you to never use your toes. kneecaps up into your thighs, and your knees are never hyperextended, so they're always slightly bent. Here's where you engage that first girdle. It's not just muscle, it's muscle and framework. You are pulling that back body down as you lift that front body, and a great place to like cut yourself is like right there at that cut yourself. And I don't mean that. I don't mean literally cut yourself, right? I mean like just to bring your awareness to the half, the navel, dimples in the back down. That's where you're the rock. You are solid. You feel yourself engage and hold yourself without hurting any of your joints, and then lift yourself. Heart lifts, blades come down into that mountain position. The crown of your head is reaching to the sky. The tail is pulling down to be tethered, and you are right in the middle. And like I said, it's not just muscle, it is muscle and framework that you are engaging, and it takes years to really, and it's constantly changing. So it's one of those things too, where I really want you to get just really intrigued and interested about what is going on as you are just standing in mountain, because it is amazing. I mean, holding yourself and not using your toes right here, and holding yourself in your girdle is working so much. All right, if you are not at the front of your space, bring yourself to the front of your space. We're going to move pretty slow, just through one sun salutation cycle, just because I love how the movement is, and it really does mimic real life stuff. Yes, we're worshiping the sun as well, but we're also worshiping our chores. All right, from your mountain, you're going to lift yourself into as much of a back bend as feels good. Doesn't matter how you get those arms up, if you even bring them up. Exhale, woo, see, I almost fell back, but I caught myself. Exhale, come forward. Make sure you're having fun with yourself too. Don't hurt yourself. Come into that forward fold. Keep those knees bent. Lift up, then halfway, flat back on that inhale. Exhale, you're going to come back down, and this is where you're going to decide, what's my energy level? Do I just want to come back down to hands and knees, or am I stepping right back into this wonderful plank? Maybe you're in the knee down plank. It does not matter. You're going to release. Remember to keep those girdles engaged. Here, where if you want to lift up higher than we did earlier, if that feels all right in your body, if you're like, yes, 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 keep that lower body heavy as you let that upper body be light, and then decide what feels good with your body. Maybe you want to lengthen down. Maybe you curl your toes right where you're at, and you lift into your downward dog. Stay with your breath. And then you're going to take your time, either walk or come down to hands and knees and step up into that forward fold position. So here's the last couple moves. Forward fold, stay up off the toes. Inhale halfway into that flat back. Exhale for the toes, and then inhale up. Only coming into as much of a back bend as feels good. Remember, you're always the boss of you. And then your hands come to your heart, navel, one of each, out to the side, whatever feels good. Notice how you feel just after that one round. You feel energy flowing through you. Make sure you're keeping yourself hydrated. Breathing full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. And then having your blocks to facing the long edge, and then having your blocks to the right side of your space, coming into that mountain posture to start with, and the awareness of how your legs are plugged right into that lower girdle in that neutral position. And here's where, if you need support, like come next to a wall, but I want you to come up that right leg up just a little bit, and you don't even have to bring it that much off the floor if you want to leave your heel or your toe. But I want you to play around a little bit with that external rotation. I'm keeping the hip where it is, and then internal rotation. It's a smaller move. I'm keeping, and if this at all aggravates, you're being very careful. I've got that knee nice and that kneecap bent, and I'm not hurting myself, and I'm doing internally and externally rotating. I'm going to come and stand over here and just bring that leg out, and then externally rotate it, internally rotate it, externally rotate it, internally rotate it. And then bringing yourself back into that neutral position, walking those legs out, staying in that neutral position for when they get to a place where you feel like, and I never want you to feel out of control with your legs. So never go wider than what you can control, because the control's happening here, right behind your navel. When you get to a place where you're like, okay, this is as far as I can go, we're gonna go into Warrior Two. So keeping that awareness, now you're gonna externally rotate that front leg and bend that knee, and then internally rotate that back leg, pull those kneecaps up into your thighs. You're still pulling that back body down, you're still lifting that front body, and those balls and heels are doing the work, not your toes. And so you should feel solid from the lower navel dimples down, and then even in this, you are light as a feather. And you are in your beautiful, beautiful Warrior Two, and I love me a lunge. And we're gonna add a hinge, you're gonna come into a side angle. You're gonna bring your right arm either down onto a block, or you're just gently resting on your right thigh. Try to stay lifted. Try not to put your weight on the limb. Your limbs are really just here for the ride. You are holding yourself in your trunk. Inhale and exhale. Don't forget to bend into that right knee and keep pulling that back body down. Inhale and exhale. Only go as far as feels good to you. In fact, I'm a little too far, so I'm going to walk in a little bit. This front leg still externally rotated. This back leg still internally rotated up into the regular triangle, or regular Warrior Two, to come into that reverse Warrior Two, and then use that trunk, lengthen to come into that reverse triangle. I love this stretch. And then it's a hinge. Keep pulling that back body down, keep lifting that front body. You are hinging into your triangle, and that left arm is reaching up, that right arm reaching down. Remember, you're not putting any weight on your limbs. You are still externally rotating with carefulness of the knees, that front leg, internally rotating the back leg, and then use your trunk, your middle, to lift yourself up, and then bring yourself back into that neutral position, always protecting your legs, and then come into standing in that mountain posture, and notice how you feel. Breathe full and deep. So the leg that we externally rotated, oh my gosh, I can really feel, and hopefully you can feel that too. Same thing, we got two sides. You're moving from your center. You keep everything neutral, as wide as feels good to you, and then play around. So put the weight on your heels and balls. I like to think glutes, heels, hip flexors, balls. You're going to externally rotate the left leg, internally rotate the right leg, which is now in the back. Inhale and exhale. Sometimes it takes a little bit to find your perfect stance. I'm pressing through the pinky toe side of that back foot. The toes are a little bit more in, the heel a little bit more out, and I'm still trying to keep that weight on that back body and up off the toes. And then here's where we hinged. Hinge, hinge, hinge. Breathing full and deep. Remember, you're holding yourself in your trunk. If you even just want to be here with, I like to put my one hand on my navel and one hand right where where my wrist is, at where my tail would be, and I like to hold myself right there. Inhale and exhale. All right, lift yourself coming into that Warrior Two to come into that beautiful reverse warrior. Keep those shoulders out of your ears. Remember, it's a trunk doing the work. That's what's lengthening you, as that left leg then comes to a lengthened position with that kneecap pulled up into your thigh. And then coming through the hinge, remember that back body pulling down, front body pulling up. You are hinging into that wonderful triangle, staying with your breath. Remember, knees are protected. They are not hyperextended. Toes doing no work. Put the weight in the back body. Inhale and exhale, lift yourself up, coming into that standing position. Remember to use whatever support you need at any time. Bring those legs now. You're going to unrotate them externally and internally, and you're going to bring yourself back into standing in that neutral position. Stay with your breath. I'm not going to have you land at your heart. I'm going to have you land once again at your navel. Breathing full. You spend all your time in your brain, and then everyone wants you to talk about, like, go to your heart, which, yes, brain, heart, super, super important. But like all back to that place, that navel. That's where you started, and you were born with lots of knowledge. Like you taught yourself to walk, and you are still teaching yourself to walk. All right, that's what we're doing right here, right now. I like to come to the back of the space, and I'm going to walk down to come into that downward dog. If you want to come right to your knees and not even rest in downward dog, then do that. But rest in that child, but please rest, no matter what you choose. You are resting for a few breaths. Inhale and exhale, and then take your time. Make your way down onto your back, and take your time getting there. Make sure you're drinking whatever you need to drink. If you had socks and sleeves that you took off as you move through that practice, get them near you. We're going to end with some on our back, and make sure when you're there, you're doing that windshield wiper. I like a little cushion for my occipital lobe. You do not want it to be super high. I don't want you to jack your head out. So if you do a cushion, make sure it's low so it's more like a gentle pull on the neck. All that same stuff is happening. You are pulling that back body down, and you are lifting that front body. You can even really feel that pelvis get into that place of support. Laying down is where you sometimes first feel it. You're trying to get that pelvis, your navel, and your pubic bone in that place of evenness, and you can make that diamond. And then that thumbs are at the navel, forefingers are at the pubic bone. Pilates does the tipping of the water. So the water's tipping, and then you're pulling it back. Inhale and exhale. Eventually you're going to be done with whatever movement you decided to do. And then feet are going to be down, right ankle on top of that left knee, flexing both feet, pressing both glutes away. Arms down at your sides, eyes closed. If you want to go further, this is where, if you want to pick up that left foot, bring it up. Keep those legs engaged. This is just a hinge. That's all this is. You're holding yourself in that navel. So if it's at all uncomfortable on that low back, bring that foot down. If you want to go further and you have to reach up, that's fine. But keep those shoulders out of your ears and bring yourself back down. This is a great place for an assist, for the yoga gear, for the strap, for a blanket, for a towel. Inhale and exhale. Eventually you're going to be done. You're going to let go of that left leg. You're going to bring that left foot down. You're going to bring that right foot down next to meet it. And you are going to move however feels good. Set up for the other side. Same thing. Everything's engaged. You're still pulling that back body down, lifting that front body. And your pigeon, your reclining pigeon, does not have to look the same on this side. Breathing full and deep. So if you don't want to reach through, if you just want to make it a little bit more restorative, then just let the upper body be nice and relaxed. Inhale and exhale, and just engage the legs, the lower body. Eventually you're going to be done. You're going to take yourself and unwind yourself and rock and circle, letting yourself move however feels good, breathing full and deep. Let's come into a knee down twist. So have those arms, so your legs are either feet on the floor or knees bent, feet lifted, and it's harder, it's a little bit harder. Keep those shoulders engaged, arms out to the side, and your palms are up or down. It doesn't really matter. I want you to think about keeping your heart anchored to the sky, and then I want you to decide, you're deciding, your body's smart, you're dropping your navel. I'm dropping my legs, that's the way that my body wants to go. I am rotating my navel to the left, my heart staying pointed to the sky, my right arm staying connected, there's no light getting through, and I am just barely coming into this mid back thoracic twist. That's the kind of twist I lead. I'll never lead you through a low back twist. All right, you're going to bring that navel back towards neutral, same as your heart, and then you're going to let the navel go to the other side. I jiggle up a little bit on, so I'm jiggling onto that right hip so I can keep those hips nice and stacked, so I can still pull that back body down evenly, lift that front body. All that stuff is still going on. Inhale and exhale. Heart anchored, navel rotating. And then eventually you'll be done. Back to center, moving however feels good, rocking, circling. And then here's where you can move through whatever postures feel good to you. If there's some yoga pose that I did not call out that would feel good to you, even if you don't think it's yoga, it doesn't have to have a yoga name. It could just be something that feels good. Make sure you're always protecting those delicate, vulnerable parts. That's what I'm trying to get you to do. I'm trying to get you to keep your toes out of the game, trying to get you to protect your joints, and then take that with you off the mat. So here's where we're still fertilizing that intention that was set. That's what's happening all the time. So take time to come into a relaxation pose for you. So if it's laying on your back with those legs just naturally coming out of your body, and then your arms at your side with your eyes closed, tucking your chin a little bit, and then just let yourself be there. Remember, if that's not comfortable, sometimes with the knees bent and the feet on the floor, and then you drop the knees in, that feels good. The bolster or the block underneath the knees can feel good. Laying in the fetal-like position can feel good. Also, you can sit either unassisted or not. And here's where the magic will happen. Let yourself settle in and take this time. Just be in the present moment a bit longer. Start to bring your awareness to your breath, to your body, right here, right now. Whatever position you're in, you're doing small movements to wake up, the twitch of the fingers and the toes, a gentle circling of wrists and ankles, and then a bend to knees and elbows, always being careful. If you're on your back, make sure that you are on your back completely before you hug in and rock. And then roll to one side, rest in that fetal-like position. No matter what position you're in, you're coming to that awareness of right behind your navel, in front of your tail, that place that you started, and you are grateful to yourself for being born and grateful to yourself for doing yoga. And now you can go forth and do awesome stuff with it. And so taking your time to come up to that seated position, feeling comfortable, hands at your heart, bow to yourself, think about any intention you set, see if you see a little green, a little sprout of green, and then keep watering it. Keep watering it as much as you can every day. And you do this by speaking to yourself with kindness, compassion, and love as much as you can off the mat. And don't use your toes. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been my pleasure.